Helen, you've got a exhibition coming up in Melbourne.
Yes, I've got an exhibition at the Queen Victoria Women's Centre in Lonsdale Street.
That's pretty cool. So what's going on there? Like, how did you get involved with this?
Well, it's a really nice space. It's a non-commercial space, and the Queen Vic Centre puts on all sorts of shows and talks for women, and it also has this non-commercial art space.
Is this one of the larger exhibitions or one of the more prominent exhibitions you've done?
Yeah, for me it's a solo, and it's also a survey. So I kind of, there's a bit of a catalyst which got this show going, and it was actually the death of a friend. So my friend died in January, and it made me want to make a certain piece of artwork. You know, started on the artwork, a lot of thinking but not actually doing, and then I heard about this place and everything sort of came together, and I said, okay, I'm having this show in this place, and it's more or less a small survey of what I've been doing with my artwork for the last few years of my life. And I realised that a lot of it is about the outdoors and wide open skies and our country and landscape, and I really just wanted to celebrate that.
So you mentioned, and I'm not going to ask you to go into details about the death of your friend or so on, but what was that piece that you did in response to that?
Well, there was a moment that I spent with a friend, with some other friends, and we were out camping. We were all in deck chairs looking up at the sky and looking at the stars, and someone started complaining that their neck hurt. So we went and got a tarp and a blanket, and we all went and put it down on the grass, and we lay under a doona and stared up at the stars, and it was such an enjoyable experience. It was fun, it was quite informative, and we didn't know at the time, but this friend would not be with us 2 days later.
Oh.
So, you know, that's really sad, but this moment became quite an important moment, and it was sort of like a flashpoint where you think, well, you know, you've got to celebrate what you've got and get on with good times and not worry about what you're always going to be doing in the future. So I suppose for me that was just a sort of a lurch forward into hurry up and do some more work, make some more work, exhibit it, and do what you love doing.
And looking around your studio here, I think I can pick out the artworks that are based around that. You've got one which has a few tents in it, and then the other one which is 3 people under a blanket looking up at the stars. Is that the one?
Yeah, now that's the one. So so there were actually, at the actual time, there were 5 people under the blanket and a dog all looking up the stars. And one of in the artwork, there's a small bat that swoops down on what looks like the children. Well, a bat really did swoop down, and most of us, mainly the men, did scream. But it was a really lovely moment. So that work was mulling away in my head, and I did many sketches, and I didn't quite know how it was going to look. It's quite hard to present people lying down on their backs, looking up at a very black sky at night. So there were a whole lot of problems about how to present this moment. So eventually the artwork got done, but not in time to go on the invitation. But it's done and it's in the show, and I've already sold a piece too.
That's good. So what's your usual artwork development process? Like you mentioned, you spent a while trying to figure out how to get make it look right. I mean, when you get an idea, from the moment of the idea you get, what do you do? Well,
sometimes it's a piece of writing or an email that might come from someone. Other times it might be a friend's holiday photos, or occasionally it's something I read in a book. So there are a whole lot of moments that came together. So this time it was a moment that I spent with someone. Other times I find that sometimes I've been leading up to that moment for some time. So there'll be multiple photos of people outside in the outdoors, in the wilderness, and big sky, and I'll find that it's something that's been ticking away in the background for quite a long time. And then also I have a reference file where I tear pages out of magazines and I just stash them away, and I have a file, and it's called, one section is called trees, another section is called sky, and there's another one called animals. So when the time comes and the ideas all sort of start to gel, I go delving back into the file. I'll often use Google to search up images. It's a whole lot of digging around to find things, and they all sort of fall into place with a bit of drawing, quite a lot of drawing actually. So sometimes there can be 5 or 6 hours of drawing to get it right, and to get elements happening in the right place, and to get the feel of the thing and the format of the lino cut. And then usually it just starts with a sketchbook drawing at the correct size, which I then draw onto some lino, and that's the process for me.
Yeah. Do you find has lino been picking up in popularity lately? I think I've been seeing more people doing it than used to be, or at least in terms of a few local artists have been picking up lino and who might not have done in the past.
I think I'd love to be able to say, yeah, I've been doing so many workshops and it's become wildly popular. But no, I think that the materials are more readily available. And also there are more printmakers around. And printmaking is a very popular branch of artwork because you can make multiples. And I think the print itself has become a bit of a thing in this day and age of digital copies. And there are prints that people hand print, but there are also prints which come off a printing press, which are also called limited edition. So the public is a little bit more knowledgeable about what a print is, and therefore that sometimes makes people want to be part of that art form.
Usually you only have a local audience for your work, don't you?
Yeah, I really wanted to put this out to not a new audience, but perhaps people that know my work but haven't been able to get to Gippsland to see the work. So it was a matter of course that I eventually moved my show to somewhere else so I could let new people see what I was doing.
And is this kind of you putting your foot in the door to try to get into more of the Metropolitan exhibition, or you?
Yes, that's exactly it. And I must admit, one of my goals for this year was to have an exhibition in Melbourne somewhere, and I didn't quite know how that was going to happen, but this is the result of that.
And this is your first time in Melbourne?
Yeah, I've been in some group shows, but this is really my first time. Yeah. I love printing on recycled materials, mainly because it's a chance to create something on something you've received for free. It's a chance to reuse and repurpose something. And sometimes once you've printed over the top of, say, a basmati rice bag, it has an extra layer of meaning that perhaps wasn't even in your mind before you started that print. So it's just a form of creativity and invention. And occasionally I print on things and they're totally a failure. The materials aren't good, and quite often I just end up giving those things away, or they'll go into a file for later on to be perhaps drawn upon at another time.
People can keep up with you on Facebook, I think?
Yeah, so I got Facebook and Instagram, and I have a website, and of course the studio is always open by appointment. People just ring up and come and have a look. So yeah, pretty much I'm available through any means. Oh, and the dates for the show are the 2nd of August to the 30th of August, and it's open weekdays 9 to 5. It's free entry, and I have an opening night on Friday the 4th of August from 5:30 to 7:30.